Hello. So, welcome to the third lecture on ultrasound or medical ultrasound. So, in the last couple of lectures, we have discussed the characteristics of sound propagation and have discussed with relative to ultrasound transmission through different types of medium and the relationship of speed of sound and density of medium and impedance of medium and all that. So those we have discussed. Then the last lecture we discussed regarding the ultrasound transducers, specifically the cylindrical type ultrasound transducers and also the Doppler transducers. So today we will discuss on the beam profile that is created by ultrasound transducer. So we'll start with the understanding of beam profile of a cylindrical type piston type ultrasound transducer. So most of these beam profiles are calculated on basis of Huygens principle. So Huygens principle states that any source can be considered to consist of a series of sources. For example, if this is a source of ultrasound, we can consider this source cons- as if it consists of multiple point sources. Okay, and each of these point source can radiate. Each of these point source can radiate a spherical wave. Okay, so if the point source, the pressure generated by the point source is P at any given point on the on a sphere drawn around this point, the intensity will be given by P by 4 pi r square, where r is the radius of this point or radius of the sphere that contains the target point. Okay, so each of these points can be considered as if each of these points is radiating a spherical wave. Okay, and so the resulting wave or resulting sound intensity at any given point can be considered as a sum of all these intensities produced by all the point sources on the transducer that you are considering. Okay, so since a great majority of transducers used in medical applications are made up of circular discs, we shall consider the field surrounding such a transducer. Okay, so this is a circular disc transducer or a piston type transducer. So here the uh, let me get the pen here. Okay, so here if we have to calculate the intensity of sound pressure at any given point in front of this transducer, then we can calculate based on the Huygens principle, where we'll start with by considering small elements on this. So we'll start by considering small elements on this, and for each small element, so if you want to calculate the sound pressure say at Q, then we can find out the pressure which is created by this small element. How can you calculate the pressure due to this small element? So if this small element is creating a pressure P, then the intensity which is created at this point will be given by P by 4 pi h square. So where h is the distance from this point to this point. So this h can be calculated based on what is it, based on y and based on uh, a is the radius of this transducer. Okay, so based on that, and so this point, the intensity due to this sub element of this transducer would be given by this. So total intensity here can be calculated as a sum of, as the integration of all the sub elements which are there over this transducer surface. Okay, so you get an integration of this for all the for you get an integration over a over y and over angle. Okay, so angle which is psi, d psi. So you can get an integration with respect to this to get the intensity at any given point. Now this is a complex calculation to do, of course, so we will not go into that. But the simplest formula, simple calculation, and which matters in most cases, is the what is the intensity along the central line which is drawn from the surface in the uh, a line which passes through the center of this cylinder. Okay, what is the intensity along that line? So that is given by Iz by I naught. Iz by I naught means I naught is the intensity at the surface. Okay, so Iz is the intensity at any given point. Okay, Iz is the intensity any given point which is z distance away from the surface. Okay, so Iz by I naught is given by this formula, which is sine square pi by pi by lambda, where lambda is the wavelength of the ultrasound which is generated by this transducer. A is the radius of the transducer. Z is the distance from the surface. And yeah, so this is, so using this formula, you can calculate the intensity at any given point. Okay, sorry, this is not, sorry about this. So you can calculate the intensity at any given point starting from the uh, so starting from this point, you can go on increasing the z, and as you increase z, you will see the intensity plot is shown in this plot here. Okay, so as you increase z, you can see the intensity varies, okay, a lot, quite a lot at the surface, but after a while it becomes quite smooth, okay, after a particular distance. So this is what we call as what to say, this is the peak, this is the last peak, okay, of this is the z at which the last peak occurs, okay, after which there are no more peaks or valleys. Okay, so this is your zi max. So this occurs at a distance of 4a square minus lambda square by 4 lambda. Okay, and this point is important in terms of the transducer. We call it the near field to far field transition zone. Okay, so this zone is called as the, so from this point to this point it is called the near field, and from this point onwards it is called as the far field. Okay, so this is called the near field far field transition. The exact value for this is given by 4a square minus lambda square by 4 lambda. But as lambda is typically much smaller than a, okay, so as lambda is much smaller than a, we have just a minute. अब चुप करो नल से डोर बंद करो. Yes, so as lambda is much smaller than a, what happens is the distance, so so this can be approximately written as 4a square by 4 lambda, which is again equal to a square by lambda, a square by lambda. So a square by lambda is the transition point between near field and far field. Okay, in three dimensional, if we look at the signal from the surface, so that looks something like this. So if this is the transducer surface, okay, and we are starting the plot from the transducer surface here. Okay, so this is the transducer surface. From it, if we start, if you take one plane, plane means suppose this is the transducer surface, and we cut one plane on this surface, which basically cuts the plane like this. Okay, so this plane cuts this transducer like this, and if you look at how the plot of intensity over this plane, that looks like this. So this is the center line actually, this one. So this is the center line which corresponds to, this is the center, This is the center line. This center line actually corresponds to this wave. This wave that you look, sorry. So the color in that plot here, the colors in this plot are representing the intensities. The red colors represent more intensity, and the blue colors represent less intensity. So blue and green colors. So here, uh, if you go through this line, go through this line, very bad. Okay, so if we go through this particular line, through this, and we plot, you will see that intensity went down here. So you see intensity is going down here, up here, sorry, up in this zone, and it doesn't go down after this. So this basically represents this one, okay? Intensity going, so intensity going up and down in the near field, but in the far field it stabilizes. So this line corresponds to that, and then you have other zones also. So this is a two-dimensional plot actually. Switches actually. So this is a two-dimensional plot of the sound pressure wave. So actually the sound pressure is a three-dimensional structure, okay? So if you look at, if this is the transducer, its sound field or the sound intensity field will be a three-dimensional structure, three-dimensional plot. So if we take one plane from that three-dimensional plot in the center, from the center, okay, one plane from this, then that looks like this, okay? And so from here, if we can do a quick calculation, so this is a transducer with a diameter of 6 millimeter. If the diameter of the transducer is 6 millimeter, then its radius is equal to, which is radius is equal to 3 millimeter, which is equal to 3 into 10 to the power minus 3 meters, okay? And its wavelength, its frequency is given as 4 megahertz, which means its wavelength would be given by, if it is in, now this sound pressure has been taken underwater. So speed of sound in water is about 1500 meters per second, square meters per second. So sorry, speed of sound is 1500 meters per second. So wavelength would be given by, lambda will be given by v, which is 1500 meters per second, divided by 4 megahertz, 4 into 10 to the power 6, okay? So if we do this calculation quickly, this will be given by 1500 divided by 4 megahertz, 4 into 10 to the power 6. So this comes out to be around this many meters, okay? Which will be 0.0, so in centimeters, if this is the 1500 meters per second by 4 megahertz, so this comes out to be this many meters. So in millimeters it will be 0.0375 millimeters. So this is your lambda actually, okay? Lambda is 3.75 into 10 to the power minus 6. 3.75 into 10 to the power sorry, minus 5. So lambda equal to 3.75 into 10 to the power minus 5, okay? So let's find out what is the near field far field transition, which is given by a square by lambda. So a square by lambda will be given by a square is 3 into 10 to power minus 3 square by lambda, which is 3.75 into 10 to power minus 5. Okay, which is about 9 into 10 to power minus 6 by 3.75 to 10 to power minus 6. So we have 9 divided by 3.75. So do it again. Here 9 divided by 3.75. It's about 2.4. So 2.4 um, 2.4 millimeter, 2.4 millimeters. Sorry, it will be 2.4 meters, right? So here if you see, is it 2.4 meters, that I have to check. So sorry, this is 10 to the power minus 5. So this will be then 10 to the power minus 1 will be remaining here. So this is equal to 2.4 into 10 to the power minus 1 meters. That's equal to 0.24 meters is equal to 24 millimeters, right? 0.24 into 10 to the power 3, which is 240 millimeters actually. 0.24 um, 0.24 into 10 to the power 3 actually. So there is some calculation mistake here, I believe. Let me check it again. So a is equal to 3 millimeter. So we have a square is equal, so this is given by 3 into 10 to the power 3 meters. Okay, this becomes 9 into 10 to the power minus 6 meters, 3.1500 meters per second, divided by 4 into 10 to the power 6. So 1500 uh, 1500 divided by 10 into 10 to the power 6. So this is 0.00015. So this is 15 into 1.5 into 10 to the power minus 4. Is it correct here? Okay, so here I have made some mistake, it seems. So lambda is equal to sorry 1500 divided by 4 into 10 to the power 6. 4 into 10 to the power 6, which is giving me 3.75 into 10 to the power minus 4. Okay, so this is 3.75 into 10 to the power minus 4. So here I have to now put 3.75 into 10 to the power minus 4, that is equal to 9 into 10 to the power minus 2 by 3.75, that is in meters. So 9 by 3.75 is 2.4. So that is equal to 2.4 into 10 to the power minus 2 meters. That is equal to 24 millimeters. Okay. So if you look at this point here, okay, which is 24 millimeters. So this is the point where that near field to far field transition is happening. Okay, so this is the near field to far field transition. So after the near field to far field transition, in the far field there are no oscillations. So the signal becomes pretty smooth in the far field. But before the far, in the near field, the signal has a lot of movement. Like the intensity varies a lot in the near field. So that's why you want your object of investigation mostly in the far field, because then you can be very sure of the intensity which you are going to put over the object which you are looking at. Okay, so it's because the calculations for reconstructing the object or reconstructing the image of the object in the near field is very difficult. Okay, so because so it is typically, all the objects of investigation should be put up in the far field of the ultrasonic transducer. Okay, so this is regarding the basic beam profile and the beam intensities and the near field far field transition of the transducer. Then after that, the I want to discuss on the reflection and refraction. In this So it is necessary to consider the behavior of ultrasound if the medium is non-homogeneous. Okay. So if the medium is non-homogeneous, means one medium is having a impedance which is Z1 and other medium which is having impedance Z2, and sound is moving from one medium to the other medium, then there are certain behaviors which a ultrasound engineer should know about. Okay. One is the basic, uh, you know, so one is the basic Snell's law, I believe it is called, which is on the if there is a sound which is getting incident on a surface, okay, where there is a transition between the impedance, then the angle of incidence will be equal to the angle of reflection. Okay, so uh, delta I is equal to delta R. Okay, so when a sound is incident over a transition over a transition zone where the material is transiting from one acoustic impedance to other acoustic impedance. For example, here the sound is being incident on is moving in from one material with acoustic impedance Z1 and is going into another material with acoustic impedance Z2. So in this case, there will be two things which will be happening very clearly. One is some part of the sound energy will be getting reflected and some part of it will be getting transmitted into the medium. Okay. So some part will be getting reflected and some getting transmitted. So the angle of incidence will be equal to angle of reflection. And regarding the angle of incidence and angle of transmissions, this is delta t, which is the angle of transmission. So the relationship between the angle of incidence and angle of transmission is given by this formula, which is sine delta t, sine del t divided by sine del I is equal to C1 by C2, where C1 is the speed of sound in medium 1 and C2 is speed of sound in medium 2. Okay. Then there are two coefficients which are important to remember. One is the reflection coefficient and other one is the transmission coefficient. Okay, so the calculation of the reflection coefficient is given by this formula. If the incidence, the angle of incidence is 0, then the reflection and transmission coefficient are given by this formula. Angle of incidence 0 means the sound is getting incident on the surface perpendicular to the surface. Okay, so the angle of incidence delta I is equal to 0. Then only these two formulas apply, where the coefficient of reflection is given by z2 minus z1 divided by z1 plus z2 square, and coefficient of transmission is 1 minus coefficient of reflection, which is given by 4z1 z2 divided by z1 plus z2 whole square. Okay, so if there is an angle of incidence and which is not equal to 0, then the reflection coefficient will be given by this formula, and transmission coefficient will be given by 1 minus alpha transmission coefficient will be given by again 1 minus alpha reflection. Okay, so in this case, one thing you can see, if z1 equal to z2, if z1 equal to z2, what will be the reflection coefficient? It will be 0. That means if the impedance is acoustic impedance of one side is equal to the acoustic impedance of the other side, then sound will simply pass through. It will have no reflection. Okay, so in an ultrasound machine, if we are encountering any such material where the acoustic impedance of the two sides are very similar, then that surface will be almost invisible to ultrasound because everything is getting transmitted. Okay, and if the acoustic impedance there is a lot of difference between z1 and z2. So this is the ultrasound transducer. Okay, and suppose this ultrasound is coming and hitting this medium where you have, it is moving in from z1 to z2. If both of these are, if z1 and z2 are almost similar, then all of the sound power will get transmitted and very little reflection will occur. So this interface will almost be invisible to ultrasound. Okay, on the contrary, if z1 is very different, okay, if z1 is very different from z2, that is either z1 much greater than z2 or z1 much less than z2, what will happen is you will have this transmission coefficient uh, reflection coefficient will be very high. Okay, so if the reflection coefficient is very high, then what will happen is a lot of, and transmission coefficient will be low, so a lot of sound power will get reflected from the surface and it will be very strongly visible. Okay, if reflection coefficient is very high, then that interface will be very strongly visible. But if there are structures behind it, what will happen is a lot of sound power will already got reflected from this point, so not much sound power was left to reach to any structure which is below this. Okay, so it might be so that even if there are structures which are present behind a strongly reflective surface, those surfaces might be invisible to ultrasound because most of the ultrasound has already got reflected from a strongly reflecting surface. Okay, so these considerations one has to keep in mind while doing ultrasound imaging. So these are some common reflection coefficients for different materials. So for air, aqueous humor, blood, bone, brain, these are the speed of sound and the acoustic impedance which are given. By using the individual acoustic impedances, you can calculate, for example, say the blood to brain barrier. What is the acoustic impedance of that? Or say if there is a fat followed by a muscle. Okay, what will be the reflection and what will be the transmission? How will you calculate it? By using these formulas. By using these formulas, you will be able to calculate that. And some of these calculations are already given here in this table. For example, if you look at, say, muscle to lung. Okay, muscle to lung. Now lung, what happens is lung is filled with air. So if this side it is muscle and this side is air, so air has, you see, acoustic impedance, the difference between acoustic impedance of air and the muscle. Okay, the difference between acoustic impedance of muscle and air, if you see, it is very high. So if you calculate, it comes out to be 0.73 in this case, which is one of the highest in this table. Okay, so that's why lung is strongly reflective. So if you put ultrasound and you try to visualize the lung, only the surface of the lung will be visible, nothing inside the lung will be visible, because if all the ultrasound will be getting reflected from the surface of the surface of the lung will be very clearly visible, but things inside it will not be visible. Okay, so lung ultrasound has really come into focus during this COVID-19 situation, because if a patient starts developing pneumonia and water starts, entering into the lungs, then parts of the lung start getting visible, because the impedance difference between muscle and air, muscle and water is smaller. So by using this logic, if you are starting to see visual aspects of the lung, or inside the lung, by through ultrasound, you'll be able to say that what is the development of, or the level of development of pneumonia inside the lung of a patient. Okay, so using these values, you can determine that how much a particular structure will be visible, or whether there are, how the overall intensity of ultrasound will get attenuated as it passes through different medias or transitions of medias. Because in the body there can be skin, then you can have fat, and then you can have muscles, then you can have blood. Okay, so there are multiple layers through which ultrasound passes. So at every layer there are some reflections and there are some transmissions. Okay, if the reflections are very strong, that layer will be very clearly visible, but the layers below it might not be very clearly visible because all the ultrasound got reflected. If the layer is very weakly has transmits most of the ultrasound, then that layer might not be very clearly visible, while because it transmits everything. Okay, some so ideally a structure should reflect some and transmit some. Okay, it should not reflect too strongly, otherwise, you know things behind it will be invisible. And if it reflects or it transmits too strongly, then the thing itself might not be visible. Okay, so these are the ideas which I wanted to discuss today in this lecture. So maybe we'll have couple of more lectures where I will be discussing on the beam forming aspect of ultrasound, and Doppler also has to be discussed. Okay, so thank you for now. We'll meet again.